월스트리트. The topic is marketing. So, only two left in stock or now, but does that really work? When online retailers alert customers there are low on stock, it can push people to buy right away, but only under certain conditions. Online retailers often use scarcity messages to encourage shoppers to buy right away. Anyone who has bought the book on Amazon.com or made other online purchases is familiar with the message. Only two left in stock, order soon. These days, because of the corona crisis, customers are finding all sorts of products with little or nothing left in stock. This doesn't reflect a marketing strategy from the sellers of these products. In more normal times, however, such quantity scarcity messages can serve a valuable purpose for online merchants. Because online shopping makes it easy to compare prices, many potential buyers will put off making a purchase decision while they check out prices elsewhere or wait for a discount to be offered. Scarcity messages give shoppers an extra nudge to buy without delay by making them fear they might miss out if they don't. 10시 35분 p.m. But do such messages really work? My research with Sungho Park, Elliot Rabinoch, and Liu Wing of Arizona State University found that scarcity messages work best with time-sensitive and perishable products, such as hotel rooms or plane tickets, as well as unique items like collectibles or limited editions. They're less effective with durable goods, such as home improvement products or kitchenware, in part because they can give shoppers the impression that the product is being pushing because it is undesirable, low quality, obsolete, or discontinued. And in the case of items typically bought in larger quantities, such as pottery, light bulbs, and batteries, we found that scarcity messages can actually hurt sales by making shoppers believe they won't be able to buy as much of a product as they want. That said, any retailer can enjoy the advantages of scarcity messages while avoiding the negatives if they do it right. Here are some of the steps they should consider. Spotlight quality. The key with durable goods, in particular, is to use additional measures to amplify the shopper's psychological trigger to buy immediately. For instance, retailers can counter the impressions that a product is undesirable or low quality by sharing customer ratings and reviews, posting the number of shoppers looking at the items at a given moment, and the number of units sold in the past day. To ease concerns that the item is being discontinued, perhaps because it was unpopular, the merchants can state whether the item is being replenished. When post scarcity messages, travel sites Booking.com, for instance shows the information about the number of people who viewed the room during the past hour, as well as the number of rooms booked at the hotel during the day. Amazon might tell shoppers when extra copies of a book will be available in addition to the 2 items left message. Amazon's decline to comment. Instill a sense of urgency. Because durable goods are neither time sensitive nor perishable, sellers should induce time urgency by launching sales events that last just a short periods in addition to posting the scarcity message. A seller could display a countdown clock showing the hours and minutes until the sales ends as a way to nudge shoppers to buy right away. Amazon during flash sale events will let shoppers know what percentage of the items have been claimed and includes a countdown showing when the events will end, say in 1 hour and 5 minutes. In some cases, Amazon will also offer faster shipment fee if shoppers can commit to making a purchase within a few minutes. By intensifying the time urgency, these mechanisms can increase sales rates. Recent research shows offer a bundle with clearance items. It can be hard to get rid of the last few items in stock using scarcity messages alone because shoppers may think these clearance items are undesirable or low quality. Sellers could try packaging the clearance item with complementary products that move faster and selling the bundle at a lower price than the 2 items together. In January, for example, Amazon bundled its remaining inventory of seasonal Christmas poinsettia party plates with Harvey plastic cups, a year-round seller. Similarly, the booksellers could post a scarcity message about the number of copies left of a book written by an author years ago and bundle that book with a popular book written by the same author. One final, if obvious point, don't lie. Sellers can't afford a loss of trust if consumers find that the notice of scarcity aren't true. Even when they are true, the credibility of the scarcity messages can suffer, and shoppers can get tired of seeing them if they are used to often. 다음 탭은 culture map 해보겠습니다. culture map. Low context and the direct negative feedback. Whether they are considered blunt, rude, and offensive, or honest, transparent, and frank, these cultures are perceived as direct by all other world populations. Cultures in this quadrant, the quadrant level A in figure 2.3, value low context explicit communications as well as direct negative feedback. The natural coherence of these two positions makes communication from people in this quadrant fairly easy to decode. Take any messages they send literally and understands that it is not intended to offensive, but rather as a simple sign of honesty, transparency, and respect for your own professionalism. We already met William and Merton, who come from the Netherlands, a solidly quadrant culture, a culture. William experienced Marian's explicit and direct negative feedback to be not just appropriate but a rare gift. What if the William and Martins were your colleague? What is the appropriate way to respond to their direct style of offering criticism? One rule for working with cultures that are more direct than yours on the evaluating scale, don't try to do it like them. Well, even in the countries furthest to the direct side of the evaluating scales, it is still quite possible to be too direct. If you don't understand the subtitle rules that separate what's appropriated frank from what is callously insensitive in Dutch culture, then leave it to someone from the culture to speak directly. If you try to do it like them, you run the risk of getting it wrong, going too far, and making an unintended enemies. I witnessed this type of mistake when working with a Korean manager named Kwang Yong-soo, who had been living in the Netherlands for 6 years. A friendly, quiet man in his early 40s, Kwang had the wide grin and soft laughs that we heard frequently. But Kwang's colleagues had complained to me that they found he so aggressive and angry that they were practically unable to work with him. I wondered how this could be so until Kwang himself explained the situation. The Dutch culture is very direct, and we Koreans do not like to give direct negative feedback. So when I first came to Netherlands, I was shocked at how rude and arrogant the Dutch are with their criticism. When they don't like something, they tell you bluntly to your face. I spoke to another Korean friend who has been in the Netherlands for a while, and he told me that the only way to handle this is to give it right back to them. Now I try to be just as blunt with them as they are with me. Unfortunately, not understanding the subtitles of what was appropriate and what was not, Kwang had gone too far, missing the mark entirely. He alienated his colleagues, sabotaged his relationships, and built up reputations as the angry aggressor. So much for adaptability. Don't make the same mistake as Kwang. When you are working with cultures from quadrant A, accept their direct criticisms in a positive manner is not meant to offend you. But don't take the risk of trying to do it like them. One small upgrade at a time may be all you can risk without tipping over to the side of being offensive or inappropriate. High context and direct negative feedback. Quadrant B is high context, implicit, and direct feedback negatively. Is populated with those puzzling, complex cultures that have witnessed the ability to speak and listen between the lines, yet give negative feedback that is sharp and direct. Russians, for example, often pass messages between the lines, but when it comes to criticism, they have a directness that can startle their international colleagues. The first time I traveled to Russia, a Russian friend gave me a short little book that she referred to as the Russian handbook. Paging through the book during my flight, I was amused to read. If you were walking through the street without a jacket, little old Russian ladies may stop and chastise you for poor judgment. In Russia, there is no reticence about expressing your negative criticism openly. For example, for instance, if you are displeased with the service in a shop or restaurant, you can tell the shop assistant or wait exactly what you think of him. His relatives, his role, his habits, and his sexual life. I thought about these observations a few weeks later when I received a call from a British colleague, Sandy Curson. She explained to me that a young Russian woman named Anna Golov had recently joined her team and was upsetting a lot of people whose help she needed to get her job done. I'm calling you, Erin, she said, because I wondered if the problem might be cultural. This is the first Russian coordinator we have had in the group, and with three of them, there were similar types of complaints about harsh criticism or what has been perceived as speaking to others inconsiderately. A few days later, I had the opportunity to witness the problem in action. While I'm prepared to teach one morning, Golov herself was in the room with me setting up the classroom. I was going through stacks of handouts, counting pages to make sure we had enough photocopies, while Golov was carefully checking the IT equipment, which to our annoyance was not working properly. I appreciated the fact that she was handling the problem with such tenacity, and that I didn't have to get involved. The fact that she was humming quietly while she worked gave me an extra sense of relaxed assurance. But then I heard Golov on the phone with someone in the IT department. I've called IT 3 items this week, and every time you are slow to get here and the solution doesn't last, she complained. The solutions you have given me are entirely unacceptable. Golub went on scolding the IT manager. Each sentence a bit harsher than the one before. I held my breath. Was she going to tell him how she felt about his sexual vice? Thankfully, not at that moment. Later, Carson asked me, as the resident's cross-cultural specialist, whether I would accompany her when she spoke with Golov about the problem. I was not thrilled at the request. I certainly did not look forward to witness Golov learn what she knew colleagues were saying about her behind her back. But at the Carson's insistence, I agreed. We met in the Carson's office, and she tried to explain the reputations that Golov had unknowingly developed across the campus, citing specific complaints not just from the IT departments, but also from the photocopying staff. Golov shifted uncomfortably in her chair while Carson explained that she had wondered whether the problem was cultural. At first, Anna did not really understand the feedback. She protested, but we Russians are very subtitle communications. We use irony and subtext. You British and Americans speak so transparently. Yes, I interjected, but if a Russian has the negative feedback to give, it seems that often the feedback is perceived to be harsh or direct to people from other cultures. Does that make sense? Yes, well, that depends how we are speaking with. Of course, one point is that we tend to be a very hierarch, hierarch, hierarchical culture. If you're both speaking to your subordinate, you may be very frank. And if your subordinate speaking to your boss, you had better be very diplomatic with criticism. Kirsten smiled, perhaps realizing why she had never personally experienced any of Glove frankness. Glove went on, if we are speaking with strangers, we often speak very forcefully. That is true. These IT guys, I don't know them. They are the voices of strangers on the other end of the phone. Under communism, the stranger was the enemy. We didn't know we could trust, who would turn us authorities, into the authorities who would betray us. So we kept strangers at a forceful distance. Maybe I brought a little too much of my Russianness into the job without realizing it. I noticed that Golov was now beginning to laugh a little as she continues to consider the situation. We are also very direct with people we are close to. She consents reflectively. My British friends here complain that I voice my opinions so strongly, while I feel like I never know how they really feel about the situations. I am always saying, but how do you feel about it? And they are always responding, why are you always judging everything? Now that I'm aware of this, Golov concluded, I will be more careful when I communicate this satisfaction. The French have a saying, quand on connaît ses maladies, on est à moitié guéri. When you know your sickness, you're halfway cured. It applies to most cross-cultures confusions. Just building your own awareness and the awareness of your team goes a long way to improving collaborations. Now that Carson is aware of the cultural tendencies impacting the situation, she can talk to Glove and her team about it, and Golov can take steps to give less direct criticism and replace some of her upgraders with downgraders. When it comes to the evaluating scale, a few simple words can make all the difference. 여기까지 읽겠습니다. 77쪽까지 읽었고요. 아직 갈 길이 많은 것 같네요.